Welcome back to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and the end of the world as we know it. All right. It seems to me that there's this thing that I'm kind of calling the Obamacare distraction policies that are taking place from the administration, and they cover a plethora of issues. I don't know if you noticed, but since the Obamacare fiasco, I don't know what else you want to call it, happened, there's been all of these strange policy actions, either by the Senate or by the president, all, in my opinion, designed to distract people from the fact that Obamacare itself is the greatest public policy disaster, maybe, of all time, at least in the last 100 years. And so that's my thoughts. That's what my gut is telling me. And we saw it initially with what did we see it initially with? Was it the Senate deciding to go ahead and exercising the nuclear option?
Sure. Which,
for those who aren't familiar, that means that the Senate would no longer allow for filibustering, or be able to close a filibuster much, much easier than what had historically been allowed, essentially crushing the voice of the minority. The filibuster was designed to protect the minority, yet that's what they're trying to do, is crush the minority there. That was done because under any other circumstances, it would be headline news. They were trying to make it headline news in lieu of the Obamacare website disaster. What else did we have happen?
Since then, let's see. We've had the Iran deal, which I don't think was a very good deal. Basically, it was happening, by the way, for a while, Kevin. Obama and his peeps have been talking to the Iranian peeps for a year now, just kind of under the radar without anybody really being aware of it. Yep. And so all of a sudden, we've got Pastor Saeed. I don't know if you're familiar with Pastor Saeed Abedini.
Yeah, several articles about him at usdailyreview.com. A lot of articles. We've covered that story. I'm proud to say US Daily Review is one of the few national news websites that has consistently covered that story. We have a good relationship with a law firm that represents him, and they're continuously feeding us content. So you can find that at usdailyreview.com. Go ahead, Sigmund.
Yeah, I mean, Abedini's been away from his family, imprisoned. He's an American citizen, and imprisoned for trying to preach the gospel of Christ over in Iran. And he's been there now for, a year? Yeah. Almost? And they just moved him to the worst prison. I mean, this is where all their worst people go. His health is bad. They're not taking care of the guy. And we have leverage at this point. The Iranians want to meet with us. And what do? We just throw them under the bus. We do nothing. We say no, we don't even mention it.
Yeah, and let me just kind of give a little bit of background. Essentially what's happened is that we have essentially legitimized the regime by saying that we will have conversations with them, which we would never do historically. I could only imagine what Ronald Reagan would be saying if his country had taken actions like this. Historically, we would never even think of recognizing a regime like this. And Secretary of State Kerry, who is really just almost like a comedic character. He'd be funny if he wasn't in one of the most important offices in our land, has kept on trying to tell us what this event with Iran doesn't mean. It doesn't mean we recognize their ability to produce nuclear power, at weapons grade. But that's exactly how the regime is interpreting it. Yeah. We're a legitimate government now. Look, the United States recognizes us now. It's unbelievable.
Hilariously, they said that the president lied about, and Kerry lied about the deal.
Yeah.
And to me, that's hilarious, because it's like, okay, the Iranians, first of all, have some sort of a moral edge on us now.
Yeah, they're taking the moral high ground.
Because our president is, we're so used now to our president lying to us, to the point now there are actually people on their side of the aisle saying, well, but everybody lies, but, it's good that he lied because he was lying for a good cause.
Well, and I'm waiting for that press conference where Barack Obama says, Now, listen, I lie all the time, but I didn't lie about this. Okay, another thing is China. China, a new policy towards China that essentially allows the Chinese to just flagrantly fly over Japanese airspace.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah, and a good way
Basically telling the Asian world that we have no longer have influence there. If you're Japan, you better figure out how to take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself, but you're a big boy, take care of yourself. Well, I mean, that's exactly what the Obama administration's foreign policy looks like, Kevin. It is do nothing, right? I mean, it started back with the Arab Spring. They even thought, hey, let's prop it up. That's a great idea. Let's see how well that's turned out.
Oh, yeah. I always prefer dictators I can control and bribe than the morons we've gotten ever since the Arab Spring.
A puppet in office that we can control is way better than what we've got now.
Yep.
So that started, and it hasn't
And I think
finished.
these regimes have figured out they can get their cake and eat it too now, haven't they?
Well, when's the last time we've even slapped somebody on the wrist for having, out of line behavior?
Yep.
We haven't.
Haven't.
Not with this administration. They're afraid to. They're afraid that they're going to look bad in the world. But look, I guarantee you, people think less of us now in the world than they did before Obama took office.
No question about it. By the way, for those who aren't familiar, Japan since 1945 hasn't had really a military to speak of.
No,
they have
a defense force.
They spend roughly half of a % of their gross domestic product on their defense, and so that basically has made a large police force. Is what that is.
Just ask Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and they're totally unprepared, and they felt that was part of their compliance with the terms of surrender. We could interpret that various ways, but the point is they're not prepared, and they are really attractive to countries like China.
Yeah, China, who's in an expansion mode,
Yep.
right? And gosh, when someone needs more resources, and when they're in an imperialistic expansion mode of thought, I wonder what in the history of the world has happened that we could look back on and see maybe what might happen in the future if we don't do something about it. So this is a great time for our administration, for our leadership, to say, let's just pull back all of our carriers and all of our, let's not project force in the world. We don't want to do that. That sends the wrong message.
Then finally, one of the latest ones is minimum wage. We need to raise minimum wage. Apparently there's too many employed people out there.
Right. Well,
we got to get rid of some of this employment out there.
Whenever Barack Obama gets up and talks about the economy, like he knows what an economy is how it's supposed to function.
As if he knew.
When's the last time he had to do something where it required him paying a paycheck, knowing how, supply and demand works, knowing how the job market works? It's a laughing stock.
Yep.
His administration is.
So, and these are all terrible options. They are all, under normal circumstances, would really garner the attention of the media and the people, but the people are still kind of uptight over Obamacare. Some people believe that what's happening now is the fact that Obama is beginning to acquiesce the idea that he's not going to win the Senate and the House, so he might as well begin doing the radical policies that he's been waiting for a majority in both houses. He might as well do it now because it's not going to happen. And I think he may be right about that. I personally continue to think that this is just a massive distraction over the worst public policy deal of the last 50 years at least.
And expect immigration reform to be first and foremost after the new year.
Yeah, in reform, actually, here's a more accurate, I think, prediction. After the primaries are over for all the House seats, after the primaries are over, is when you get that immigration reform.
Right.
Because,
You're right.
Right now those guys are fighting for their political lives running against true Tea Party candidates, and so they're going to lie until that happens.
No, you're right.
All right, when we come back tomorrow with much, much more for you. But the show continues 24/7 at the vastly new and improved priceofbusiness.com. And don't forget to check out our friends at usdailyreview.com. And this is The Price of Business.